The Xian dynasty government army of Wang Yi and Wang Sun arrived at Kunyang and immediately surrounded the city with more than 10 layers of encirclement. They set up over 100 military camps, banners covered the fields, and the sounds of gongs and drums could be heard dozens of miles away. Their military display was overwhelming. The Xian forces used battering ram carts, with huge logs suspended or mounted inside the vehicles, to smash against the city gates and walls. They also used small-wheeled mobile shelters as cover while digging tunnels beneath the walls to breach the city. At the same time, they concentrated all their powerful crossbows on the city, firing volleys of arrows like pouring rain. The soldiers and civilians inside the city could scarcely move about. Even when going out to fetch water, they had to carry door panels over their heads to avoid being struck by arrows. At the most difficult stage of the battle, the defending commanders, including Wang Feng, wavered and even sought to surrender to Wang Yi. However, Wang Yi and Wang Sun believed that the fall of Kunyang was only a matter of time, so they refused to accept the surrender of the city's defenders. Otherwise, they felt, it would not count as a true military achievement. Therefore, they were determined to crush Kunyang completely. This made the defenders realize that their only hope of survival was to hold out desperately until reinforcements arrived. As a result, they resisted the Xian army with even greater determination, seeing the stubborn resistance of the defenders at Kunyang and realizing that the city could not be taken quickly. General Yan Yu again advised Wang Yi, saying, according to military strategy, when besieging a city one side should be left open. We should allow some of the defenders of Kunyang to escape, so they can spread news of their defeat and thereby intimidate the enemy at Wancheng. But Wang Yi and the others, relying on their overwhelming superiority in troops and supplies, rejected Yan Yu's advice once again. They continued to intensify their direct assaults on Kunyang, insisting on stationing their hundreds of thousands of troops beneath the strong city walls. Inside the city, the Han soldiers and civilians fought side by side, repeatedly repelling the fierce attacks of the Xian forces. Although the Xian army held an absolute advantage, they could do nothing to break the defenders' resistance. Despite repeated assaults, Kunyang still stood firm and unmoved. Even before Kunyang was surrounded, 13 Han commanders, including Lu Xiu and Li Yi, had seized the opportunity to leave the city in order to gather troops and reinforcements from nearby rebel bases. When they arrived to mobilize forces from various regions, some commanders, reluctant to abandon their property and valuables, wanted instead to divide their troops and remain behind to guard their camps rather than go to reinforce Kunyang. Lu Xiu said to them, "If we can defeat the enemy today, the treasures and wealth we gain will be tens of thousands of times greater than what we possess now, and our great cause will succeed as well. But if we are defeated by the enemy, we will not even be able to save our own heads, so what use will gold and silver be then?" Inspired by his words, the officers and soldiers from the various camps followed Lu Xiu, Li Yi, and the others and advanced together toward the Kunyang area. At the end of May in 23 CE, the Xian dynasty garrison defending Wancheng, after enduring a prolonged siege by the Green Forest Army, Han forces, had run out of food supplies and received no reinforcements from outside. The defending commander, Sun Peng, was finally forced to surrender. However, before this, Lu Xiu, in order to further boost morale and undermine the confidence of the Xian army, had already spread false news that Wancheng had fallen and that the main force of the Green Forest Army, Han forces, was on its way to Kunyang. When this news reached the city of Kunyang, the defenders' morale immediately soared. They became even more determined to hold the city and prepared at any moment to sally out and destroy the enemy. Upon hearing the same news, the Xian troops grew depressed and demoralized. In terms of momentum and morale, the Green Forest Army, Han forces, had already gained the advantage. On the first day of the 6th month, Li Yi and Lu Xiu led the reinforcements back to the Kunyang area. In order to inspire everyone's fighting spirit, Lu Xiu personally led more than 1,000 infantry and cavalry reinforcements as the vanguard, while Li Yi followed with the main force. As Lu Xiu's troops approached the Xian dynasty army's position, they immediately formed battle formations and prepared to attack. Wang Yi and Wang Sun also dispatched several thousand soldiers to meet them in combat. Before the enemy could fully arrange their formations, Lu Xiu led the vanguard in a fierce and decisive charge, shouting battle cries that shook the heavens. In the first clash alone, they killed dozens of Axian soldiers. The generals who followed him joyfully said, "General Lu usually becomes very cautious when facing even small enemy forces, but today, in the face of a great enemy, he is so brave, truly remarkable. From now on, please always lead us at the front in battle, so that together we can defeat the enemy." Lu Xiu then led his troops in another assault against the Axian army, which suffered a crushing defeat. His forces killed nearly 1,000 enemy soldiers. After Lu Xiu led his troops to win several consecutive battles, the morale of the Han forces was greatly boosted, while the momentum of Wang Yi and Wang Sun was significantly weakened. While fighting the Axian army outside Kunying and steadily gaining victories, Lu Xiu and his forces, in order to further undermine the enemy's fighting spirit and boost the morale of the Han defenders inside Kunying, deliberately spread exaggerated news of a Han victory at Wancheng. They shot a secret message into Kunying reading that the Han army at Wancheng has already won, and reinforcements are arriving from Wancheng, and this message also fell into the hands of the Axian army. This caused panic among the Axian commanders, Wang Yi and Wang Sun. The Axian soldiers realized that even this small city of Kunying, despite being besieged by a massive army for over a month, had still not been captured. If an additional 100,000 Han troops from Wancheng were truly arriving, they would be even less able to resist. Wang Yi and Wang Sun looked down on Lu Xiu and believed he could be easily defeated. As a result, they personally led only a force of just over 10,000 men to inspect and patrol their positions. To prevent disorder among the various camps, they ordered strict discipline across the Axian army, forbidding any unit from launching attacks without explicit orders. Lu Xiu then selected an elite death squad of 3,000 men and launched a sudden assault from the west of the city toward the Axian army's command center. Wang Yi and Wang Sun led troops to engage him in battle, but they were no match for Lu Xiu's assault force. The Axian formations were quickly broken, and their soldiers fell into chaos and fled. At this point, the remaining Axian troops, bound by strict orders not to act without command, did not dare move to reinforce Wang Yi and Wang Sun. Seizing the opportunity, Lu Xiu led the Han forces in a fierce and relentless attack, completely routing Wang Yi and Wang Sun's army and killing Wang Sun in the battle. After Wang Yi's command center was overrun and Wang Sun was killed, the various units of the Axian dynasty army lost their central command and immediately fell into chaos. At that moment, the Han forces inside Kunying saw that Lu Xiu and his death squad had achieved victory. They also raised a great battle cry, rushed out through the city gates, and launched a pincer attack from both inside and outside. The shouting shook heaven and earth, and the massive Axian army rapidly collapsed. The Axian forces were largely made up of impoverished commoners conscripted from various regions, many of whom already harbored deep resentment toward the Mang regime and had no desire to continue fighting. Once attacked from both inside and outside, they naturally abandoned their formations and fled. In the ensuing rout, the fleeing soldiers trampled over one another, leaving corpses strewn for over 100 li. At the same time, a sudden violent storm struck, lightning, thunder, and torrential rain followed. Roof tiles were blown away by strong winds, and rivers swelled rapidly. Even the tigers and leopards accompanying Wang Yi's forces trembled in fear. More than 10,000 Axian soldiers drowned in the flooding waters, and the Shur River was nearly blocked by the bodies. The Han army captured all of the Axian army's military supplies. The spoils of war piled up like mountains, and even after more than a month of continuous transport, they still had not been fully cleared. Wang Yi led a remnant force of over 1,000 men and fled in a single breath back to Luoyang. When Wang Mang learned of the disastrous defeat at Kunying, he was extremely shocked. The entire Axian dynasty court was thrown into panic and fear.